The galactic status quo. For millennia, the Zarkov had reigned supreme over the known galaxy. Their massive, insectoid forms struck terror into the hearts of countless species across thousands of worlds. With exoskeletons harder than diamond and razor-sharp mandibles that could slice through starship hulls, the Zarkov were living weapons of mass destruction. But it wasn't just their physical prowess that made them the undisputed rulers of space. The Zarkov possessed technology so advanced it bordered on magic to most other species. Their hiveship armadas could darken the skies of entire planets, each vessel bristling with weapons capable of cracking open moons. Zarkov warriors wore battle suits that enhanced their already formidable strength and speed, making them nearly invincible on any battlefield. At the head of this terrifying empire sat the Hive Empress. Her psionic powers allowed her to coordinate the actions of trillions of Zarkov across the galaxy with frightening efficiency. Under her rule, the empire had expanded relentlessly for thousands of years, crushing or enslaving any who dared stand in their way. The Zarkov's conquests had become so routine that they had grown complacent. Victory was assured before the first shot was fired. Newly discovered species would inevitably fall to their knees and surrender or be obliterated if they dared to resist. This was the natural order of things. It was in this context of absolute dominance that the Zarkov first detected signals from a backwater arm of the galaxy. The emissions were primitive by their standards, radio waves and early attempts at faster-than-light communications, but they hinted at a spacefaring civilization previously unknown to the Empire. Initial scouting reports painted a picture of a species hardly worth the Zarkov's attention. These humans, as they called themselves, were soft-bodied creatures with no natural defenses. They were confined to a single star system, having only recently taken their first tentative steps beyond their homeworld. Their technology was laughably outdated by galactic standards. Yet something about these humans piqued the Hive Empress's interest. Perhaps it was their rapid technological advancement over a mere few centuries. Or maybe it was the diversity of their cultures and ideas, so unlike the uniform hive mind of the Zarkov. Whatever the reason, she ordered a more thorough investigation. As the Zarkov observed humanity from afar, they began to notice curious anomalies. These fragile beings displayed a tenacity that seemed at odds with their physical limitations. They thrived in environments that should have killed them and bounced back from disasters with surprising speed. Their societies were chaotic and divided, yet they made technological leaps that took other species millennia to achieve. The Zarkov were particularly puzzled by human creativity. The concept was almost alien to their hive mind. Why would one need to create when the most efficient solutions were already known? Yet humans seemed to revel in finding new ways to do things, even if those ways weren't always the most practical. Despite these oddities, the Zarkov remained confident in their superiority. Humans might be interesting specimens, but they posed no threat to the Empire. When the order finally came to invade Earth and its colonies, the Zarkov approached the task with the same casual arrogance that had marked their previous conquests. As the invasion fleet assembled on the fringes of the Sol system, the Zarkov commanders anticipated little resistance. Their sensors showed Earth's defenses to be primitive and sparse. The handful of human colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter were even more vulnerable. By all calculations, this would be a swift and total victory. Yet, as the first wave of Zarkov ships entered the system, they encountered something unexpected. Instead of panic or immediate surrender, they were met with a flurry of activity. Human ships, though vastly outgunned, moved to defensive positions with surprising coordination. Stations on Mars and Europa fired up mysterious energy signatures that the Zarkov couldn't immediately identify. On Earth itself, instead of chaos, there seemed to be a sense of grim determination. Broadcasts intercepted by the Zarkov spoke not of capitulation, but of unity and resistance. Leaders from nations that had been bitter enemies mere days before now stood shoulder to shoulder, rallying their people for the fight ahead. The Zarkov dismissed these acts of defiance as the last futile gestures of a doomed species. They had seen it before, the false bravado quickly crumbling in the face of overwhelming force. Yet as they moved in for the kill, a small doubt began to creep into the hive mind. These humans were reacting with a speed and adaptability the Zarkov had never encountered. Within hours of the invasion fleet's arrival, Earth's satellites had been reconfigured into a makeshift early warning system. Weapons that had been pointed at other humans were now aimed skyward, ready to defend against the common threat. Most worryingly, the humans seemed to be using technology that the Zarkov's initial scans had missed. Stealth systems masked the movements of small, agile craft that darted between the planets. Energy shields, thought to be beyond human capabilities, flickered to life around key installations. As the first shots were fired and the invasion of Earth began in earnest, the Zarkov felt something they hadn't experienced in millennia. Uncertainty. These humans were not behaving like any prey species they had encountered before. For the first time in living memory, the outcome of a Zarkov conquest was not a foregone conclusion. The Hive Empress, watching the battle unfold from her sanctum, deep in Zarkov space, felt a strange sensation ripple through the hive mind. It was an alien emotion, one that took her a moment to identify. It was respect. As the Zarkov warships descended upon Earth, humanity steeled itself for the fight of its existence. Against all odds, and in defiance of an enemy that had never known defeat, the human race prepared to prove that sometimes the most dangerous prey is the one you underestimate. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength lay not in its weapons or technology, but in its indomitable spirit and its ability to achieve the impossible when pushed to the brink. The stage was set for a conflict that would reshape the cosmic order. The Zarkov were about to face an enemy unlike any they had ever encountered, an enemy that refused to accept defeat, an enemy that would fight with every ounce of its being to survive and thrive. The battle for Earth and for humanity's place in the galaxy was about to begin. The invasion begins. The skies above Earth darkened as the Zarkov invasion force entered the atmosphere. Massive hive ships, each the size of a small city, descended through the clouds, their chitinous hulls gleaming ominously in the sunlight. Swarms of smaller craft buzzed around them like angry insects, ready to rain destruction upon the planet below. General Belina Rodriguez stood in the United Earth Defense Command Center, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the incoming threat. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment, yet the sheer scale of the alien armada still took her breath away. All defense grids online, reported her second-in-command, Colonel Akira Tanaka. Orbital platforms are charged and ready. Elena nodded grimly. Initiate Operation Thunderbolt. Across the globe, hidden silos burst open, revealing batteries of advanced railguns. These were humanity's trump card, a weapon developed in secret using reverse-engineered alien tech from a crashed scout ship years ago. The Zarkov, confident in their intel, had no idea they existed. As the first wave of alien fighters screamed towards Earth's major cities, the railguns opened fire. Hypersonic projectiles streaked through the sky, punching through the Zarkov's energy shields as if they were tissue paper. Dozens of enemy craft exploded in midair, their debris raining down harmlessly into the oceans. In low Earth orbit, the planet's meager fleet of space fighters engaged the Zarkov in a desperate holding action. Though outnumbered and outgunned, the human pilots fought with a ferocity that caught the aliens off guard. They used the debris of destroyed satellites as cover, popping out to launch surgical strikes, before disappearing again into the orbital junkyard. On the ground, the first Zarkov landing parties were met not with panic, but with well-prepared resistance. In New York, Tokyo, and Lagos, civilian militias fought alongside regular military units, using guerrilla tactics to ambush the invaders in urban canyons. The aliens' superior technology was partially nullified by the close quarters and humans' intimate knowledge of their home turf. But despite these initial successes, the sheer number of Zarkov forces began to tell. One by one, Earth's major cities fell under alien control. The invaders established fortified zones, using their advanced technology to create impenetrable energy domes over conquered territories. In orbit, the human spacefighters were eventually overwhelmed, their heroic last stands buying crucial time for ground defenses to be shored up. The Zarkov high ships now hung unopposed in the sky, like sword of Damocles threatening the entire planet. Yet even as things looked bleakest, humanity refused to give up. In hidden bunkers and secret bases around the world, scientists and engineers worked feverishly to find weaknesses in the alien tech. Every piece of wreckage, every captured weapon, was scrutinized for any advantage it might provide. Dr. Aisha Okafor, a brilliant Nigerian physicist, made a breakthrough that would change the course of the war. Studying the Zarkov's energy weapons, she discovered a fundamental flaw in their design. Their plasma containment fields operate on a frequency we can disrupt. She explained to General Rodriguez via a secure quantum link. With the right transmitter, we could cause their weapons to backfire. Alina's eyes lit up. How soon can you have a prototype ready? Give me 48 hours, Aisha replied confidently. As Aisha and her team raced against time, the Zarkov prepared for what they believed would be the final push to crush human resistance. The Hive Empress herself had arrived in the system, her massive flagship dwarfing even the largest tech ship. From her command throne, the Empress reached out with her psionic powers, expecting to feel the despair and surrender of a beaten species. Instead, she encountered a wall of defiance, a collective human will that refused to be cowed. Puzzled and slightly unnerved, she ordered an all-out assault on the remaining free areas of the planet. Millions of Zarkov warriors, clad in their fearsome battle suits, descended upon the human strongholds. In the ruins of London, a ragtag group of survivors led by Captain James Holloway prepared for their last stand. Armed with a motley assortment of weapons ranging from plasma rifles scavenged from dead aliens to centuries-old bolt-action rifles, they waited in the rubble of Westminster. As the first wave of Zarkov troops rounded the corner, James gave the signal. The humans opened fire from a dozen hidden positions, their bullets and energy bolts finding weak spots in the alien armor. For a moment, it seemed like they might hold. But then, a Zarkov heavy weapons team set up, their cannons capable of vaporizing entire buildings. As they prepared to fire, James closed his eyes, expecting the end. Suddenly, the air was filled with a high-pitched whine. The alien weapons sputtered and died, their energy cells overloading. In the confusion, James and his team pressed their advantage, taking down the disoriented Zarkov with precise shots. Similar scenes played out across the globe as Dr. Okafor's weapon disruptors came online. The Zarkov, so reliant on their advanced technology, found themselves suddenly vulnerable. Human resistance fighters emerged from hiding, armed with crude but effective weapons that were immune to the disruption field. In orbit, the Hive Empress watched in disbelief as reports flooded in of Zarkov forces in disarray. For the first time in her long life, she felt a twinge of fear. These humans were not just resisting. They were adapting, innovating, finding ways to turn the Zarkov's own strengths against them. She issued a psychic command for all forces to fall back and regroup. As Zarkov troops retreated to their fortified zones, leaving behind masses of dead and disabled battle suits, humans worldwide celebrated their first major victory. But Alina Rodriguez and the other human leaders knew this was just the beginning. They had bloodied the nose of a galactic superpower, but the real fight was yet to come. The Zarkov would learn from this setback, adapt their tactics and technology. The next phase of the war would be even more brutal. As the sun set on a battered but unbroken Earth, humanity steeled itself for the challenges ahead. They had proven they could stand up to the galaxy's apex predators. Now they would show the universe that humanity wasn't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for their right to claim their place among the stars. In hidden labs and makeshift factories, humans worked tirelessly to reverse engineer captured alien tech. On the front lines, soldiers and civilians alike prepared for the next onslaught. And in the hearts of every human, a flame of hope burned brighter than ever. The Zarkov had thought this would be a simple conquest. They were quickly learning that when it came to humanity, nothing was ever simple. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and the galaxy watched with bated breath to see what these upstart humans would do next. Adapt and overcome. As the dust settled from the first major human victory, both sides regrouped and reassessed their strategies. The Zarkov, stung by their unexpected setback, retreated to their fortified zones to analyze what had gone wrong. The Hive Empress, for the first time in her long reign, called a council of her top generals to strategize. Meanwhile, in the underground command center of the United Earth Defense Force, General Elena Rodriguez and her team were working around the clock. The victory had bought them time, but they knew the Zarkov would return, stronger and more prepared. "We need to press our advantage," Elena said, addressing the holographic images of world leaders. Dr. Okafor's disruption technology was a game-changer, but the Zarkov will adapt. "We need more." Dr. Aisha Okafor, now a key figure in Earth's defense, spoke up. "I have an idea, but it's risky. We could potentially use the Zarkov's own hive mind against them." The room fell silent as Aisha explained her plan. By reverse engineering captured Zarkov communication devices, they could potentially create a backdoor into the alien hive mind. It wouldn't allow them to control the Zarkov, but it could let them predict the aliens' moves and sow confusion in their ranks. "It's dangerous," Aisha admitted. "If the Zarkov detect our intrusion, they could potentially turn it against us." Elena weighed the risks. "Do it," she finally said. "We'll need every advantage we can get." As Aisha and her team worked on the Hive Mind Infiltration Project, codenamed Whisper, other human innovations were taking shape. In the ruins of Silicon Valley, a group of programmers led by Wei Chen had developed an AI that could predict Zarkov attack patterns with uncanny accuracy. In the Australian outback, Aboriginal guides were teaching Special Forces teams how to move undetected, even from the aliens' advanced sensors. The Zarkov, for their part, were not idle. They had identified the source of the humans' weapon-disrupting technology and developed countermeasures. Their battle suits were upgraded with redundant systems that could switch frequencies rapidly, making them resistant to human disruption attempts. When the Zarkov launched their next offensive, they expected to regain their dominant position. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. Human forces were always one step ahead, setting up ambushes and launching preemptive strikes with deadly precision. In the skies above New Delhi, a squadron of human fighters, led by Wing Commander Raj Patel, engaged a much larger force of Zarkov craft. Using Wei Chen's AI predictions, Raj's team executed a series of complex maneuvers that scattered the alien formation. "Echo Team, Foxtrot pattern now," Raj ordered, and his pilots responded instantly, their machines dancing through the sky in perfect synchronization. The Zarkov, unused to such coordinated resistance, fell into disarray. Their hive mind, usually a source of strength, became a liability as confusion and contradictory orders spread rapidly through their ranks. On the ground, similar scenes played out across the globe. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous warriors armed with poison-tipped arrows that could penetrate Zarkov armor led alien patrols into deadly ambushes. In the frozen wastes of Siberia, Russian and Chinese troops, once bitter enemies, fought side by side against the common foe, using the harsh terrain to their advantage. But the tide truly turned when Project Whisper came online. Suddenly, human forces could hear whispers of Zarkov communications, gaining crucial insights into their plans. Elena and her team used this information to launch a series of devastating strikes against key Zarkov installations. The Hive Empress, sensing the intrusion into her hive mind, reacted with fury. She launched a massive psionic attack, attempting to overwhelm the human presence in the network. But Aisha had anticipated this and prepared a defense. As the Empress's psionic energy surged through the connection, It encountered a firewall unlike anything the Zarkov had ever seen, a barrier built from the collective will of humanity. The resulting psychic backlash stunned the Empress and temporarily fragmented the Zarkov hive mind. All across Earth, alien forces suddenly found themselves cut off from central command, forced to make decisions on their own, something they had never had to do before. Humanity seized this moment of confusion to launch a global counteroffensive. From the ruins of conquered cities, resistance fighters emerged in force. Factories that had been working in secret began churning out weapons reverse-engineered from alien technology. And in orbit, a fleet of ships that humanity had been building in secret made its debut, engaging the surprise Zarkov armada. As the battle raged, Alina received a transmission from an unexpected source. A group of Zarkov, cut off from the hive mind, had experienced individual thought for the first time. Led by a warrior who called herself Zik-Era, they requested asylum, offering valuable intelligence in exchange for protection. Alina was skeptical, but she saw an opportunity. If we can show that even the Zarkov can change, can choose a different path, it could change the whole nature of this war, she mused. The decision to accept Zik-Era and her followers was controversial, but it paid off. Their insights into Zarkov psychology and tactics proved invaluable. More importantly, their defection sent shockwaves through the Zarkov ranks, causing some to question the infallibility of the Empress and the hive mind. As the war entered its next phase, the balance of power had shifted. Humanity was no longer fighting just to survive. They were fighting to win. The Zarkov, for the first time in their long history of conquest, found themselves on the defensive. In her flagship, now retreated to a safe distance from Earth, the Hive Empress raged at this unexpected turn of events. These humans had done the impossible. They had not only resisted the might of the Zarkov Empire, but had pushed it back. She realized that this war would define her reign, and indeed, the future of her entire species. As both sides prepared for the next round of conflict, the galaxy watched in awe. The upstart humans, dismissed as primitive and weak, had proven themselves to be formidable opponents. Win or lose, humanity had earned its place among the stars, and nothing would ever be the same again. Tables turned. The war for Earth had reached a pivotal moment. Humanity, against all odds, had not only held its ground but was now pushing back against the Zarkov invaders. The aliens, once confident in their superiority, found themselves increasingly on the defensive. General Alina Rodriguez stood before a holographic map of the solar system, surrounded by her top advisors. "It's time we take this fight beyond Earth," she declared. "We've proven we can defend our home. Now let's show them we can take the battle to their doorstep." Operation Starfall, as it was dubbed, was humanity's most ambitious plan yet. Using the intelligence provided by Zik-Era and her defectors, combined with the predictive power of Wei-Chen's AI, Earth's forces prepared to strike at the heart of the Zarkov fleet. Dr. Aisha Okafor had made another breakthrough. "We can use the Zarkov's own faster-than-light technology against them," she explained. "By inverting the phase of their jump drives, we can create a disruption field that will strand their ships in normal space." The plan was risky. It would require getting close enough to the Zarkov flagship to deploy the disruptor. But if successful, it would cut off the invasion force from reinforcements and resupply. As Earth's newly christened Starship fleet prepared for its first major offensive, the Zarkov were facing their own internal struggles. The Hive Empress, shaken by the recent defeats, was losing her grip on the hive mind. More and more Zarkov were experiencing individual thoughts, leading to confusion and discord in their ranks. The day of the attack arrived. Earth's fleet, a mix of sleek new vessels built with reverse-engineered alien tech and retrofitted civilian ships, jumped into position around the Zarkov armada. At their head was the EFS Defiant, commanded by Captain Yuki Tanaka, daughter of Alina's second-in-command. "All ships, execute maneuver Theta," Yuki ordered. The human fleet moved in perfect synchronization, their formation shifting in ways that confused and disoriented the Zarkov targeting systems. As the space battle raged, a small team led by James Holloway, the hero of the London Resistance, infiltrated the Zarkov flagship. Their mission: to plant Aisha's disruptor at the heart of the alien vessel. The fighting was intense. Zarkov warriors, their battle suits sparking with energy, clashed with human commandos in the narrow corridors of the high ship. James and his team fought their way through, using every trick and tactic they had learned over months of brutal warfare. Meanwhile, on Earth, Elena coordinated the ground offensive. As the Zarkov forces in orbit were engaged, resistance fighters worldwide launched simultaneous attacks on alien strongholds. The streets of occupied cities became battlegrounds once more, but this time it was the Zarkov who found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned. In New York, a team led by Wei Chen used reprogrammed Zarkov battle suits to infiltrate and sabotage the aliens' main communications hub. In Cairo, Dr. Okafor herself led a daring raid to capture a Zarkov weapons research facility, securing vital data that could turn the tide of the war. Back on the Zarkov flagship, James and his team finally reached the ship's core. As they fought off waves of defenders, their tech expert, a young prodigy named Zora, worked feverishly to install the disruptor. "It's done," Zora shouted just as a Zarkov energy blast grazed her shoulder. James grabbed her and the team retreated, fighting their way back to their extraction point. As they escaped in their stealth shuttle, the effects of the disruptor became immediately apparent. The massive Zarkov ships, their FTL drives suddenly inoperable, began to drift. Confusion spread through the hive mind as countless Zarkov found themselves cut off from their Empress's guiding influence. Yuki Tanaka, seeing the opportunity, gave the order: "All ships, concentrate fire on the flagship's weak points. Let's end this." The combined firepower of Earth's fleet, precisely targeted thanks to Zakara's intelligence, tore through the Zarkov flagship's defenses. As explosions rippled across its hull, the unthinkable happened. The Hive Empress sent out a call for ceasefire. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Zarkov sued for peace. The aftermath of the battle was chaotic. With their hive mind fragmented and their Empress's power waning, many Zarkov found themselves experiencing individual thought for the first time. Some, like Zakara, chose to side with humanity. Others clung desperately to the old ways. As representatives from Earth and the Zarkov met to negotiate terms, the galaxy watched in awe. The humans, dismissed as primitive and weak just months ago, had done the impossible. They had fought the galaxy's greatest empire to a standstill and forced them to the bargaining table. But Elena and the other human leaders knew that the real challenge was just beginning. They had won the war, but now they had to win the peace. As they prepared to take their place on the galactic stage, humanity faced a new question. Having saved Earth, could they now help forge a new and better galaxy? The Zarkov, for their part, were entering uncharted territory. With their hive mind fractured and their empire in disarray, they would have to learn to think as individuals, to coexist rather than conquer. As the sun rose on a new era, both humans and Zarkov looked to the stars with a mix of trepidation and hope. The galaxy would never be the same again, and the legend of how a small, underestimated species had changed the cosmic order would be told for generations to come. The war was over, but humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. A new galactic order. In the years following the Earth-Zarkov War, the galaxy underwent a transformation unlike any in recorded history. The fall of the Zarkov Empire sent shockwaves through the cosmic community, appending millennia of established power structures and alliances. On Earth, the process of rebuilding began. Cities rose from the ashes, incorporating both human ingenuity and salvage alien technology. The scars of war remained, but they served as a reminder of humanity's resilience and determination. General Elena Rodriguez, now serving as Earth's representative to the newly formed Galactic Council, stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, a massive space habitat orbiting Earth. She watched as ships from a dozen different species docked, their crews disembarking to trade, negotiate, and collaborate. "Did you ever imagine we'd end up here?" asked Dr. Aisha Okafor, joining Elena at the window. The physicist had become a key figure in Earth's new role as a technological innovator for the galaxy. Elena shook her head, smiling. "Never in my wildest dreams. But here we are, at the crossroads of a new era." Indeed, humanity's defeat of the Zarkov had catapulted Earth from an obscure backwater to a major galactic player. The adaptability and innovative spirit that had won the war now made humans highly sought after as problem solvers and mediators across the galaxy. But the transition hadn't been without its challenges. Some humans, emboldened by their victory, pushed for Earth to establish its own empire. Others advocated for isolation, fearing that further interaction with alien species would lead to more conflict. In the end, a middle path was chosen. Earth became a beacon of cooperation and innovation, offering its unique perspective to help solve galactic problems. The United Earth government worked to balance military preparedness with diplomatic outreach, always mindful of the lessons learned during the war. The Zarkov, meanwhile, were undergoing their own radical transformation. With their hive mind fractured, individual Zarkov were learning to think for themselves for the first time. It was a painful and often chaotic process, but one that was reshaping their society from the ground up. Zik-Era, the Zarkov defector who had aided humanity during the war, now led a movement to reform her species. "We were conquerors because we knew no other way," she explained to a mixed audience of humans and aliens. "Now we must learn to create rather than destroy, to cooperate rather than dominate." Not all Zarkov embraced this new philosophy. Remnants of the old empire, clinging to dreams of former glory, became a persistent threat. Earth often found itself working alongside reformed Zarkov to counter these insurgents, forging an unlikely alliance born from the crucible of war. As Earth's influence grew, so did its responsibilities. When a devastating plague threatened to wipe out the Nyx, a reclusive species from the galactic core, it was a team led by Dr. Okafor that developed the cure. When tensions between the silicon-based Lithosians and the methane-breathing Vorkwal threatened to erupt into open war, it was human diplomats who brokered a lasting peace. Captain Yuki Tanaka, her ship rechristened as a vessel of exploration rather than war, led missions to the farthest reaches of known space. She and her diverse crew, which included both humans and allied aliens, made first contact with several new species, always striving to learn from the mistakes of the past. But perhaps the most profound changes were happening on a smaller scale. Across the galaxy, individuals from different species were learning to work together, to see past their differences and find common ground. Mixed crews became common on merchant vessels and exploration ships. Interspecies cultural exchanges flourished, leading to new forms of art, music, and philosophy that blended diverse galactic traditions. On a small agricultural world at the edge of former Zarkov space, a human farmer named Miguel worked alongside a young Zarkov named Kextity, teaching techniques to cultivate earth crops in alien soil. Their unlikely friendship symbolized the new galactic order, former enemies working together to build a better future. As the decades passed, the galaxy settled into a new equilibrium. It wasn't perfect. Conflicts still arose, and challenges remained. But the spirit of cooperation that had been born in the crucible of the Earth-Zarkov War continued to grow and flourish. Elena, nearing the end of her career, reflected on the long journey that had brought humanity to this point. From a species on the brink of extinction to a linchpin of galactic civilization, humans had come further than anyone could have imagined. "We thought we were fighting for our survival," she mused to Aisha as they watched a group of alien children playing in Harmony Station's Central Park. "But we were really fighting for this, a chance to be part of something greater than ourselves." Aisha nodded, her eyes on the stars visible beyond the station's transparent dome. "And our greatest adventures are still to come." As night fell on Earth, Its cities gleaming with a mix of human and alien lights, the planet stood as a testament to the indomitable spirit of its people. Against all odds, humanity had not only survived but thrived, reshaping the galaxy in the process. The story of how a small, underestimated species had risen to change the cosmic order would be told for generations to come. But for the humans living in this new era, it wasn't just history. It was a call to keep pushing forward, to explore, to innovate, and to strive always for a better tomorrow. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, Earth shone as a beacon of hope, a living proof that even the greatest of challenges could be overcome with courage, ingenuity, and the unwavering belief in a brighter future. The galactic beasts had once thought they ruled unchallenged. But humanity had shown up, and nothing would ever be the same again.